Welcome to Global Truth. This is your host, Dr. Nasir Baig. If you stepped outside in New York, London, Toronto, or Oslo over the past few weeks, you didn't just smell burning timber. You stepped into a landscape that felt fundamentally unnatural. A thick copper-colored haze hung over the skyline, reducing the afternoon sun to a dull, blood-orange disk. It is a sight that immediately brings to mind one of the most iconic artworks in human history, Edward Munch's 1893 expressionist masterpiece, The Scream. For decades, people assumed that the wavy, fiery orange sky behind Munch's terrified figure was purely symbolic, a psychological expression of existential dread. But art historians and atmospheric scientists now know Munch was painting a literal memory. He was recalling the atmospheric aftermath of the 1883 cataclysmic eruption of Mount Krakatoa in Indonesia. Krakatoa blasted millions of tons of volcanic ash into the stratosphere, painting European skies in eerie blood-red hues for 1 year. Today, as we sit in July 2026, our skies are turning that exact same shade of Krakatoa orange. But it isn't volcanic ash from a distant island. It is the simultaneous, unprecedented burning of forests across 2 continents, stretching from the wilderness of Canada to the scrublands of Spain, the vineyards of France, the peat bogs of Scotland, and the subarctic forests of Norway. In today's episode, we break down where these mega fires are burning, how subarctic tundra caught fire, the political friction over transatlantic smoke, and the unexpected role that the artificial intelligence boom is playing in our warming world. Let's address a fundamental question first. Is this the first time European countries are facing a wildfire disaster of this scale? The answer depends on where you look on the map. Southern Europe countries like Spain and France, they have a long, tragic history of summer fires. But what makes 2026 a watershed year is the sheer intensity, the early onset, and how far north these blazes have reached into cool climate ecosystems that historically rarely burned. Let's take a tour of the front line. Number 1, Canada, the boreal epicenter. The 2026 Canadian wildfire season flared dramatically following a severe spring heat wave. Over 800 active fires have burned through 3 million hectares, nearly 7.5 million acres across Ontario, Alberta, British Columbia, and the Northwest Territories. The primary igniter? Dry lightning and zombie fires. Embers lingering beneath winter snow in deep peat soil that reignited in summer heat. Tragically, at least 4 lives have been lost, including 3 wildland firefighters, with thousands of indigenous community members remain under displacement orders. Then Spain, scorched farmlands. In Spain, temperatures shattered 44 degrees Celsius, 111 degrees Fahrenheit during an early July heat wave. Arson and agricultural machinery sparks ignited dry scrublands across Catalonia, Galicia, and Andalusia. Over 85,000 hectares have been incinerated, destroying farming villages and forcing 15,000 evacuations. At least 2 firefighters have succumbed to heat shock and smoke inhalation. France, Gironde pines in ashes. In southwestern France, particularly the pine forest of the Gironde and Mediterranean coastal corridors, dry lightning ignited massive blazes. Over 30,000 hectares of timber and vine country have burned, reducing hundreds of homes and campsites to ashes. Scotland, the smoldering peat bogs. Here is where historical precedent breaks down. Scotland experienced an unprecedented spring drought. Dried out heather and peaty soil caught fire, burning over 12,000 hectares. Peat fires are ecological nightmares. They burn underground for weeks, making them nearly impossible to extinguish while releasing massive pulses of stored ancient carbon. Then comes Norway, Arctic tundra in flames. Even further north, near the Arctic Circle, unseasonably high temperatures dried out moss and lichen layers until they were brittle as paper. Lightning strikes triggered blazes that scorched thousands of hectares of sensitive tundra, stark proof that high latitudes are warming at double the global rate. Global warming acts as the ultimate force multiplier. It turns minor human mistakes or routine lightning strikes into explosive megafires. As these millions of acres burn, the atmosphere doesn't care about national borders. Jet stream winds have pushed thick toxic plumes across thousands of miles. Early this month, New York City was plunged into a surreal twilight as the air quality index AQI spiked past 300, a level classified as hazardous. This sparked a heated political spectacle. Donald Trump made headlines with a public statement criticizing Canadian leadership, telling them to control their smoke and stop letting it drift into the United States. The comment drew sharp criticism from meteorologists and diplomats for ignoring basic atmospheric science and for discounting the long history of cross-border firefighting cooperation. Critics quickly pointed out the deep irony. Just 18 months ago, during California's catastrophic Palisades fire, Canada dispatched hundreds of specialized wildland firefighters across the borders to save American homes and lives. What is the situation now? Heavy summer thunderstorms mid-month temporarily washed the fine particulate matter out of the air, dropping New York's AQI back to moderate levels. However, meteorologists warn that as long as Canadian boreal fires burn through the late summer, shifting wind patterns can drag dense smoke right back over major cities at any moment. Now let's turn to a deeper, less visible connection, one that connects the device you're listening to right now to the warming climate driving these fires. The artificial intelligence boom. How does an AI model connect to a forest fire? It comes down to thermodynamics and physical infrastructure. High-density AI chips like GPUs run extremely hot. To prevent hardware meltdowns, massive data centers rely on evaporative cooling towers, where water is evaporated to draw heat away from servers. Massive water footprint. A single large AI data center can consume 3 to 5 million gallons of potable water per day, equivalent to a daily water consumption of a town of 30,000 people. Depleting aquifers. In tech corridors like California and North Virginia, continuous groundwater pumping for server cooling is dropping water tables and drying out residential drinking wells. Grid strain and fire risks. Massive power draws force utilities to keep aging fossil fuel plants running during heat waves. Furthermore, overloaded power lines operating at maximum capacities on hot, dry, windy days significantly increase the risk of utility-sparked wildfires. New York finally takes action. This growing crisis reached a tipping point this month. On July 14, 2026, New York Governor Kathy Hochul signed a landmark executive order. New York became the first US state to halt the construction of large AI facilities by implementing a statewide one-year moratorium on new permits for massive data centers, citing server risks to state energy goals and local water security. As environmental fear spreads, so does online misinformation. Recently, a viral post swept across social media falsely claiming Amazon founder Jeff Bezos was prioritizing municipal water supplies for AI server farms over human drinking water. While debunked as a satirical hoax, its viral spreading highlights the genuine public anxiety surrounding resources allocated during an era of climate stress. When we strip away social media rumors, the grounded reality remains stark. 2026 is proving to be one of the most destructive wildfire seasons in modern history. Fire experts warn these boreal blazes and smolder well into late autumn until we address the compound drivers from greenhouse gas emissions to the unchecked resource demands of our digital infrastructure. The scream in Munch's sky will remain the soundtrack of our summer. Stay safe, monitor your local air quality index, keep your windows sealed when the haze rolls in, and join us again next time on Global Truth. Take good care of yourself.